Where were you when Griffin Kell hit his fire drill field goal to keep TCU's perfect season alive? We'll talk about that next in the 11-0 TCU Horned Frogs on Locked On Horned Frogs.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Never a doubt, right? TCU wins again. They defeat Baylor 29-28. This team has had some insane comebacks this year, some heart-stopping wins. Nothing really tops this. I was thinking about this earlier today. A lot of their wins, even though they've been close games, of course, Oklahoma State got that done in triple overtime. But even like the K-State game, Texas Tech, West Virginia game was closer than maybe the final score would indicate. They still won those games by double digits, and in a lot of those cases had the lead for the majority of the fourth quarter. This is the second time this year they've had like a true walk-off win where they've won at the buzzer. And in this game, had a brief lead in the third quarter, but that was really it. I mean, the first half, they went into the locker room tied, but it looked bleak when they were down 28-20 in the fourth quarter. So a few housekeeping things. I'm recording this on a late Saturday night. Matt is not with me today. He might be with us later this week, and it's my fault. My wife and I were traveling to see her family this week, and so I'll be out of town. We'll be going out of town Sunday. So Thanksgiving week just kind of messes up with the schedule. Sorry about that. Please subscribe to Locked On Horned Frogs on YouTube if you're not already subscribed, and then whatever your favorite podcast app is, whatever your platform of choice is, you can subscribe there as well. But let's just get into it. I want to know. Hit me up on YouTube here in the comments, or you can hit me up on Twitter at SimcockSteven. The show is at Locked On TCU. I'm not great at tweeting from that account because I don't always remember that I have a second account. Anyway, I want to know where you were, what you were doing when Griffin Kell hit this field goal. And I want to talk about the clock management and the decision-making that led up to it. So I was at the game. I was there with my oldest son, Bradley, and then my parents. My mom's a Baylor grad. And so this is always a fun rivalry game for me. There's a lot of Baylor people in my life. So I'm loving that TCU has won 7 out of 8 against the Bears. But, we're watching it. It's really cold. And we were thinking like, all right, let's start moving as the final drive's going on. It had been a while. My son was getting restless. We said, okay, let's start moving towards, like, we're still in the stadium, but let's start moving closer to the exit so that whatever happens when it ends, we can jet out and hopefully, kind of get there first and maybe get out before the huge traffic hits. So we're there, and I'm watching the drive unfold. And when Max gets that scramble on 3rd and 1, I was feeling really good. And it really didn't hit me until that third down play just how crazy the ending was going to be. So they run the ball on 1st and 10, spike it on 2nd and 7, and I figured on 3rd and 7 they would throw it. And, of course, they hand it off to Amari DiMercato, and he gets 3 or 4 yards on a run play. And it looked like – I said this in my, instant reaction, which you can find on Twitter – but it looks like Amari got up and was thinking, okay, cool, we're in the middle of the field, let's spike it and kick it. But then he sort of realized immediately, it's 4th down. And so the offense sprints off the field. Griffin Kell comes on the field. Perfect snap, perfect hold. He nails it from 40 yards. It all went off without a hitch. Anything goes wrong, and they lose that football game, right? Now, I believe Sonny when he says this because they didn't have any timeouts. They didn't take a timeout because they didn't have any. So there was no time to really get the team together. But, they call the run play on 3rd and 7 or on 3rd and 7. So they knew it was going to happen. I was just shocked. Now, I think a byproduct of this, and I don't know if this was his thought process, one good thing that happened was that Griffin really had no time to think about the kick. He's just sprinting onto the field, going through the motions and letting it rip. And of course, if they spiked the ball and let him get set up. Maybe Aranda called a timeout to try to freeze him. Also, I mean, those yards were important. I don't really know I can't remember how many yards Amari got on that play, but it was 4 or 5 yards. And so it was the difference between a 44, 45 yarder and a 40 yarder, which is a big, significant difference. But everything just went perfectly. And it was a microcosm of this team's season, which is back against the wall. Things look bleak. You take a punch from the other team, and everything just seems to be pointing towards, okay, this is where it comes to an end. And once again, they found a way. Like, they just continually find a way. And of course, like, after the game, I'm looking at reactions, and people are saying, it's TCU team, they've done it again. You know, are they really good, or are they just winning games? Now, first of all, I'll say it doesn't really matter what people think about TCU's resume, because if they win the next 2 games, they're in, right? Like, you go 13-0 and you're in. Iowa State at home, win the conference title game, you're going to the college football playoff. And then we'll find out against whether they play Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, whoever. We'll find out how good they are. But it is funny to me. Like, there was all this talk about, oh man, TCU just scraping by again against mediocre teams. And then Tennessee goes on the road against South Carolina tonight and gives up 63 points. 63 points in a loss. I think a 25-point loss to the Gamecocks. Spencer Rattler looked like the guy that was hyped coming out of high school. It's hard to win football games. It's hard to go 11-0. It's really difficult to do it in a league where you're playing everybody every single year. They're the first team in the college football playoff era to get to 11-0. And no, it's not always pretty. It doesn't always make a ton of sense. But they just got another gut check victory. And when they had the ball at their own 10-yard line, down 8, with like 7 minutes left, that was a huge drive. No Kendre Miller. He got banged up and was out. Quentin Johnston went down, on an interception play. It looked like somebody fell on his ankle. So he was gimpier than he even was, which he was fighting through an injury all day again. He's not playing. Darius Davis was out today with a broken hand. I expect him to be out next week. All your playmakers are gone. And Tay Barber steps up. Savion Williams steps up. Amari DiMercado makes some plays. And the steady guy back there, Max Duggan, does it again. Huge throws, big-time runs. And they go down, they score a touchdown, 90-yard drive. They had that 3rd and 11 play where Max hits Jared Wiley on a 15-yard pass. And then go for 2, had a really nicely designed play where they leak Amari. Sort of, he's on the left side of the formation, not in the running back position. He's kind of like in a split-end spot. He goes out in the flat across the field. And, I mean, I don't know. I think he kind of short-armed the ball, but I also feel like Max probably didn't put it where he needed to. And so he drops it. He tries to one-hand it. He can't catch it. They're down 28-26 with 2:07 left. And it looks like maybe the game's over. And the defense, which had a tough day, and we'll get to that in a minute. The defense, which had a tough day, comes up with a 3-and-out. Blake Shapen helped him out because he missed a wide-open Ben Sims on 3rd and 10. But bottom line is they get the stop. They get the ball back, and again, missing those key playmakers, the 3 best, playmakers on their offense. They find a way to go down the field. They perfectly execute a fire drill field goal. And they win the football game, going away, 29-28. I mean, it's just incredible stuff. And I'm just at the point where I'm enjoying the ride. Now, I want to talk about Max for a second. It had been a rough couple weeks for him. The Tech games and the Texas games were not his best moments. Now, he came up with some big plays in both those ball games and, kept it going, and they won the football game. But the offense had looked like it was kind of stagnating. And at times – it was stalling out again today, but I think they took a huge step forward. And he was great in the passing game this afternoon. Final line, he was 24-35, 327 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Also made some plays with his legs. He ended up being the leading rusher on the day with 50 yards on 8 carries. I was wrong about Max. And I think I've said this, but I need to reiterate it. I was insanely wrong about Max Duggan. I was ready to give up on him as a starting quarterback. And I said that on the show. I mean, I didn't say it that bluntly, but I said that I thought Chandler Morris should be the starter. I expected him to be the starter. And then, in my mind, I was like, man, if Max ends up winning the job, I don't know how that's going to go. And I remember when Chandler went down, I can't even really remember what I thought about Max having to play. I think I was just sort of like, well, he's going to play. When he initially went down, I was like, he'll be out for a few weeks. And I thought, okay, well, Max will play against Tarleton and SMU. Those are games they can win with him at quarterback. It's really great that he's still here and that he can take over the offense. And then he just went off. And I think early in the season, we talked so much about how he's improved as a passer and just as a decision maker and a quarterback. And I think all that's true. But as the years gone on, and as this team has been battle tested and faced test after test, I think the thing that has shown up with Max and that has permeated through the rest of this roster is all the intangibles that he's brought to the table since he took over the job as a freshman, which is he's just tough. He's just gritty. He gets hit, and he just gets up and keeps going. He does not blink. He might get frustrated, but he has a short memory. He just keeps making plays. He keeps going. And I think the offense and the defense and every aspect of this football team has taken on his personality. And it's really helped that he's winning games. But Brock Heward, who was doing color commentary, I just rewatched the second half of the game on the Fox app. And since I was there, I didn't get to hear him talk much, obviously. But Brock Heward, who was doing color commentary today, as he was walking off the field, said, get this guy to New York. And he said it's not really even about the numbers, even though Max has put up some impressive numbers this year. It's just about the fact that they're 11-0. He's the leader of this team, and he is why they are where they are. And so just an outstanding performance from him. When we come back, I want to talk about the defense. And honestly, it was pretty negative. Now, they stepped up in the second half to a certain extent, but Baylor's run game got after him today. We'll talk about what went down with that. First, though, a word from one of our sponsors, Upside. Inflation right now is really hitting everybody's pocketbooks. Prices are going up, groceries, gas, everywhere. It's just hard to save money. So whether it's driving less, dining out less, buying less from the grocery store, we can all agree there's nothing fun about less, and that's why it's a good time to try Upside. Upside's an incredible app for anyone who buys groceries or dines out. With Upside, you don't have to cut back because you get cash back on every purchase. To get started, download the free Upside app. You can use the promo code LOCKEDON and get $5 or more cash back for your first purchase of $10 or more. Next, claim whatever offer you're buying on Upside. You can use check-ins. You can get paid by just using your debit card or credit card. Upside users are earning more than $1 million every week. That's probably why they have a 4.8-star rating on the App Store. Download the free Upside app and use the promo code LOCKEDON to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. And again, that promo code is locked, and that is the Upside app. You can find it in the App Store. All right, so defensively today, TCU, coming off that outstanding performance against Texas. And, I expected this to a certain extent, like just some regression to the mean, Baylor came out guns blazing, and they were running all over TCU, went right down the field and scored on their first drive. Went right down the field on their second drive, too, and had a chance to score, had some penalties. And I think it was Bud Clark made a really nice pass breakup on a 3rd and long, and then Baylor missed a kick, and that was a huge turning point in that game because it could have been 10-0, could have been 14-0, ended up being 7-0, and then the TCU offense was able to respond and tie up that game in the first quarter. But the big issue this afternoon was TCU just could not stop the run. Squirrel Williams led the way, 19 carries for 112 yards for Baylor. Richard Reese had 10 carries for 56 yards, 232 yards rushing as a team. And I think especially in the first half, like overall, I feel like Baylor had a good game plan. They were running the ball. They were trying to keep the TCU offense off the field, win the time of possession battle, which they ultimately did. And they were effective at it. And I felt like Jeff Grimes was really making some things happen. I know Baylor fans were frustrated with how he handled the end of that ball game, but just the creativity he had in the running game, all the motion, the jet sweep motion. They had some counters and traps that they were running. They had a crazy play that I've never seen before where the offensive lineman like faked like they were pulling and they turned around and went to the other side. And TCU just could not set the edge. Like time after time, Baylor was getting to the edge with their run game with this outside zone and just getting chunk yardage plays, right? And so they're going to find a way to address that. It was the first time this year that I came away from a football game that I watched with TCU where I really felt like they lost the battle up front. Like at the line of scrimmage on both sides, they kind of got whipped. Now, I will say this. The O-line was really good in pass protection today. And so kudos to them for that. Did not run the ball super effectively, but gave a clean pocket for Max really all day long. But the D-line was having trouble getting off their blocks, and there weren't a ton of plays. I mean, I remember a play in the first quarter where D. Winters shot the gap on 2nd and 10, and it looked like he had Craig Williams wrapped up for a loss, but he whiffed on the tackle, and then Williams ended up getting 6 or 7 yards, and Baylor got a big play on 3rd down. But honestly, like it was just plays where Baylor had it blocked up nicely. They were kind of using TCU's aggression and speed on defense against them by getting them going one way, and then the running backs either cutting back or it was a counter play where they were running the opposite direction. Now, Baylor's O-line's pretty good. That was supposed to be the strength of their team going into the season because they returned pretty much everybody off that offensive line that won the Big 12 championship last year. It didn't really come to fruition like they expected. But Jacob Gall is a dude that's been around forever. He's a Buffalo transfer, 6-year senior. Khalil Keith, really good player. Mose Jeffrey. I mean, you can kind of go down the list of the Baylor O-line, but they do a fantastic job blocking. And I just felt like it was, we had a lot of concerns about the TCU D-line going into the year. I think overall they've held up really well. But today, in particular, just didn't do a great job. Now, in the second half, they did better. And Terrell Cooper showed up in a big way in some plays there in the second half. Johnny Hodges kind of got in the mix as well. Those linebackers did a better job of getting to the ball carrier. Still gave up a couple touchdown drives, but I just think by and large, they found a way to slow down that Baylor offense a little bit. And again, when they needed to, and they got some help. I mean, I think Blake Shapen, I don't really know if he wasn't seeing things well or if he just didn't trust himself, didn't have a lot of confidence. But he had a couple run plays where, he's trying to get the first down with his legs, and he didn't get there. And TCU's run defense was stout when it had to be. They got stops again when they had to. There's been tons of games this year where they've struggled through a couple quarters or they've struggled through most of the game, and they still find a way to step up. And when TCU failed on that 2-point conversion, Baylor gets the ball back with 2 minutes left. They just need one first down to salt the game away. Get a couple, good stops on 1st and 2nd down with Baylor running the ball. And then on 3rd down, play action, bootleg, and Blake Shapen had Ben Sims, Baylor's tight end, running free. He missed him for whatever reason. Decides to try to get the first down with his legs, and Johnny Hodges comes up with a big tackle. And TCU gets the ball back and goes down the field, and they score, and they escape. So, I'm not super worried about Iowa State next week running a lot of misdirection in the run game and doing some of the things that Baylor did because I'm just not sure they have the personnel to do that. I know they've struggled offensively all year. But potentially K-State, they beat West Virginia today. And they'll have a game with Kansas, which if they win, they'll head to Arlington for the Big 12 championship game. I could see them doing things like that, trying to use their O-line, their physicality, and some of that motion and misdirection in the run game to really confuse the TCU defense. However, again, as the mantra has been all year, got stops when you needed to, found a way to win, and now you can regroup and say, okay, we got past that test. Let's see how we can try to stop the bleeding and get in a better situation for next week. When we come back, we'll have some closing thoughts. I want to shout out a big-time wide receiver performance from earlier today. I do want to mention one of our sponsors, though, again, Nissan. It's our Nissan Thrilling Moment of the Week. Our partners of Nissan have worked with us to create this segment across the Locked On College Network. The thrilling moment, what else would it be? That Griffin Kell field goal to win the game, 40 yards, no timeouts, run out there, execute it perfectly, get it done. That is your thrilling moment in college football, brought to you by Nissan. Thrilling designs behind the new lineup from Nissan are intended to empower drivers and vehicles as capable as the driver themselves. When I think of unbelievable ability on the field for this week, it just has to be that Griffin Kell field goal to win the game for the TCU Horned Frogs. All right, final thing. And I want to know, let me know on YouTube, where were you? What were you doing when Griffin Kell hit the kick? Could you even watch it? Were you so stressed that you had to go away? Were you at McLean Stadium? Were you watching it on TV? What happened? What was the setup when Griffin Kell hit that kick to get the Frogs to 11-0? But I want to give a shout out to a receiver who I think has had an outstanding year and just doesn't get enough credit because he's just so consistent. And me and Matt have talked about him before, but Tay Barber today was fantastic. 5 catches for 108 yards. He had a huge catch in the second quarter for like 84 yards, I think, on a play where Max hooked up with him and set up TCU to score a touchdown. But there were some catches he made on the final 2 drives of the game. One, he was running a crossing pattern, and Max just threw the ball low, and he was able to somehow scrape the ball off the ground while he was running full speed, get out of bounds, and put them in a 2nd and 5. He had another catch on the second to last drive where he caught a little out route and he just got popped as soon as he got the ball, somehow held on. Again, gave him 5 yards, and then had that catch at midfield that got the drive going for the final time. Tay has just been, the ultimate kind of workman, just gets it done. And he just makes big catches. Either makes big plays in the passing game, or if there's shorter plays, it just seems like it's always, a huge catch. I was impressed with the offense today. Did not run the ball super effectively, but they were much better in the passing game. Not as consistent as you would like it to be, but I think it was a big improvement from the Tech and Texas games. And the main thing was their ability to protect, the passer and Max Duggan. That'll do it for Locked On Horned Frogs today. Exciting victory. Let me know what your thoughts were on the game. We'll be back on Tuesday. This is Locked On Horned Frogs. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.